Golfing with Monkeys. Now there's a sermon title that tells you absolutely nothing about where I'm going today unless you know the story. Anybody out there know it? Raise your hands. Terrific. I love clueless congregations because they're far more receptive. Great deal. Here's the story. It's told by the Reverend Gregory Knox Jones, a Presbyterian minister who serves a church across the Potomac River from the one that I serve in Maryland. He writes that once the English had colonized India and established their businesses there, they yearned for recreation and decided to build a golf course in Calcutta. But golf in Calcutta would prove to present a unique obstacle. Monkeys from a nearby natural habitat would drop out of the trees, scurry onto the course, grab those little white balls, and run with them. The monkeys, he writes, would play with the balls, tossing them here and there. At first, the golfers tried to control the monkeys. Their first strategy was to build high fences around the fairways and the greens, and this approach, which seemed to hold a little initial promise, soon failed, for apparently a fence is no challenge to an ambitious monkey. Next, the golfers tried luring the monkeys away from the course. But the monkeys found nothing so amusing as watching these human beings get irritated when they snatched these little white things. In desperation, the British began trapping and relocating the monkeys, but for every monkey they carted off, another would mysteriously appear. Finally, Knox writes, the golfers gave into reality and established a rather novel ground rule for the Calcutta course. Golfers in Calcutta had to play the ball wherever the monkey dropped it. And then he reflects on this story. You can imagine that playing under this rule could be maddening. You'd hit a beautiful fairway shot right down the middle of the thing, and the monkey would grab it and throw it into the rough. But similarly, a wicked slice or a hook might be picked up by the monkey and dropped in some sweet spot near the pin. And so, he said, the unpredictable monkeys then brought equal measure of gratuitous bad luck and gratuitous good luck to the game. Now, I was first charmed and fascinated when I read this story, and the perpetual preacher in me realized there's a sermon in this. There's a sermon in this because life is so often like this as we try to navigate the course of our own lives. I want to reflect on the story about monkeys who capriciously inserted themselves in this tightly controlled game of golf because I feel it is profoundly spiritually instructive as a metaphor for how we can get through this life of ours in this terribly unpredictable, uncontrollable world. Several points from the story. First, there is the obvious truth of life's utter unpredictability, its randomness, and if you will, its perpetual unfairness. From almost, I think, as soon as we begin to think about life as little children, despite the regular, abundant, and unmistakable evidence we are given to the contrary, we like to think that just as every golf course has clear rules, so does the game of life. And if we just play by the rules, we'll get through the course just fine. This is a great idea, except for the fact that life doesn't work this way. It's a tape, it's a script that runs in all of our heads. Tell me if you had a different one. If I just work hard, live right, mind my P's and Q's, obey the laws, live by my principles, watch my diet, brush my teeth, exercise regularly, don't drink excessively, tend to my marriage and career, carefully rear my children. If I follow the basic rules I know should be in place, I'll do just fine. This is a good tape. It helps us in many ways, but life does not work by this script. I can say this with certainty, not only because I have personally been banging around this beautiful, sorrowful creation of ours for 60 years, but for more than 36 of those years, I've been a minister in the business, as all ministers are, of helping people come to terms with the random, unexpected, and sometimes profoundly unfair and painful realities that intrude into our otherwise orderly lives. Just one heartbreaking example, if I might, from my own personal circle right now. I have a dear friend in ministry who was recently at the absolute top of his game, happily married, wonderful kids, a career going fabulously. He was widely respected in his community and was the picture of contentment and health, when all of a sudden, seemingly out of the blue, he was diagnosed with an aggressive strain of leukemia. Now, instead of sailing effortlessly along in his life, in a heartbeat, everything he cherishes is threatened. And so it can be for any of us, anytime. Tell me if your life and your world is any different. But I live on a planet where I'll be happily playing along a fairway when all of a sudden some monkey of fate, if you will come out of nowhere, snatch that ball and put it in a place. I don't want it. This is an unpredictable universe, and the first thing we need to know is that despite our best efforts, we are never, never, ever in control of most of what happens to us. And just as is the case with the mischievous monkeys, and here I arrive at the second important aspect of this story, just as it's true that our ball is often dropped in some capricious, rough place, it is also true that many other times, and this we must never spiritually forget, many other times our ball, through no effort of our own, is graciously placed right next to the pin, where all we have to do is effortlessly tap it in for success in our life. I passionately believe that this remarkable and open and fluid world of ours, which again we do not control, holds at least as much amazing grace and good luck as it does misfortune and bad breaks. And I, for one, do not believe, and this is a core theological and spiritual belief of mine personally that helps me to respond to the events of my life and the lives of others. I do not believe that this creation has any sort of overriding purpose or intention or plan any more than those monkeys in Calcutta did. Creation is not, of course, out to get us, nor does it promise us an effortless ride. Creation and life, you all know it, are full of random and unexpected events and outcomes, and there's no way, no matter how diligently we play by the rules we know we should play by, that we'll be immune from these random occurrences. We cannot control, if we want to, all the pleasant events and wondrous outcomes that randomly happen our way, like meeting the love of your life on a bus to work someday, or having all three of your kids grow up to be bright and charming and successful. What's the chance of that, for God's sake?